Welcome, everyone, to tonight's Girlfriend Book Club monthly discussion for April. I'm Shelley Emling, the executive editor of the Girlfriend newsletter. I'm also the moderator of the Girlfriend Book Club. And this month, the 125,000 of you or so chose as our book pick for April, Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. And I'm so glad you did. This is not my typical read, I have to say. This is not something I would have probably picked, but I'm so glad you guys did because now it's one of my favorite books of the last year. So we're so thrilled that Andy's here to join us for our monthly discussion. So welcome, Andy.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. First off, I've got a question from myself, and then I've got questions from the Girlfriend Book Club members also that I sourced before this. As you've been asked about this a million times, the book, of course, focuses on a threat to Earth and one man's attempt to stop it. So how did you come up with this idea? I read that, or I heard you speak about the fact that you drew the idea from like other books that you had been working on. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. I have, I've always kind of got fractional book ideas in my head floating around, and Project Hail Mary is actually sort of a pastiche of a bunch of different ideas that I had. I had an idea of like, oh, an astronaut like wakes up aboard a ship alone with amnesia, or another one is I always wanted to do a first contact story. And another one is, man, I think it'd be cool if we had a mass conversion based fuel. And then another one from a book that I was writing and then abandoned because it sucked. There was a character in there who I really liked, who was like a woman who's been given just basically unlimited authority to solve a very serious problem. And so I basically lifted her straight out of that book and put her into PHM. So it's a bunch of different story ideas that I glued together and sanded off the edges, and they worked well together.
So how long did it take you to put this together? Because it's quite a big book.
Well, I would say I spent about a year on the first draft, and then several months in editing, going back and forth. Um, I mean, it's like it's hard to pin down exactly how much time you spend on a book because like those other ideas that I glued together to make the book came from many years, of, ideating. But the actual like working on this book, like, making the document and starting typing took about a year.
Wow, that's not long. I thought you were going to say longer than that.
Well, if it's any consolation, I have just now passed the deadline for my next book that I promised Random House, and it just whizzed right by, and I'm nowhere near ready. So I'll
Really?
I'll make up for my speediness on Project Hail Mary by being really behind on this next deadline. So, Isabella, take note. Sorry, for your listeners, Isabella is someone who works for Random House, and she's listening in on the interview.
She's watching your every move. Okay. So a lot of people said that they wanted to know in the book club, like, how did you research this book? It's so scientific. I'm not scientific or math oriented at all, and yet you obviously are. And what kind of research do you do when you do something like this or The Martian? Your previous big hit. I mean, what's your research process like?
Well, it's a bit of an unsatisfying answer, but just Google. I mean, just pretty much. So I'm a dork and I like the scientific stuff and the space stuff, and that's what I'm into. So I have a good foundational knowledge, not anything like an expert or a real scientist, but I know enough to know how to look for the things I need to learn. And so I do a lot of Googling around to find the answers I want. And when you're into science stuff and you want to find out science stuff online, that's probably one of the easiest things to research because the scientists who have the answers for you are technically savvy, right? And so they know how to post that stuff online. And they're proud of their work. So they put it up there. Oftentimes, I would say maybe like 70% of the time, the answer I seek ends up being part of the study materials for a class, for like a college level course. And
Yeah.
it's like, oh, here's how you figure out how long it takes, like, heat to transfer through an object, da, da, da. And I'm like, here are the equations for it. And I'm like, yeah, that's what I needed. Thanks.
So a lot of the book club members also said, you make this very scientific. It seems like something that would not be entertaining, but actually you make it entertaining. So how do you do that? You make people want to keep turning the page, but it's really scientific, but
Well,
we love the
thank you.
character, and we want to find out what happens to him. I mean, how do you combine those two things?
Well, basically, there's a few things. First off, I try not to overwhelm the reader with unnecessary science information. So I try to just give just the information the reader needs to know to understand the plot, understand the stakes, and understand the problem and solutions and everything. Um, and then another thing is they care about the science and they want to understand it because it relates to a character they like and whether or not he's going to survive or succeed in whatever he's trying to do. And then the third part of the equation, I guess, is just readers will, and you're a book club, so I'm sure you already know this, but readers will forgive any amount of exposition if you make them laugh. If
Yeah.
if there's humor, they'll they'll read anything at all if there's humor. And so if you just make them laugh, make them have a funny, have a chuckle or two here and there while they're learning that information, they'll forgive any amount of exposition.
So I always ask authors this question. Was there a particular segment of this book or a chapter or part of it or a character that was harder to write than the rest, that was like more challenging for you?
Huh. Good question. See, it always ends up being a blur in my mind. There are always the parts that are like hard, then later on, you kind of forget about how hard it was. I mean, there were some rewrites, there were chunks and things here and there. I'm trying to think about it. I'm sorry, I don't have a good answer for you. Nothing stands out as being particularly hard to write. The whole
Right.
process of writing is always very difficult for me. I'm not one of those people who gets a cathartic joy from the actual process of writing. I really envy those people. For me, it's really hard labor. It's work to
Right.
write. For me, I always say writing is like gardening. It's You don't enjoy being out in the hot sun, being chewed on by bugs, pulling roots out of the ground. Your back hurts. You're dirty. You're grimy. Yeah, you're sweaty and stuff like that. You're not doing that for fun. You're
Right.
doing it because at the end you have a very nice garden that you can look at and enjoy. And
Yeah.
so that's what writing's like for me. I don't like writing. I like having written.
Yeah. You like when it's over.
I like the result, and so that's what I'm working toward.
So I don't want to give any spoilers in case somebody has not read the book, although I think most
I
everybody
mean,
has.
they've seen the trailers, the film trailers at least.
Yes.
So
But there's a friendship that develops and a plot twist and everything. So when you started this book, did you know that's how it was going to play out? Do you know what's happening toward the end? Do you already have the outline? Or, I mean, I've talked to some authors that just kind of wing it a little bit. They
mhm.
start with an idea, and then it takes them different directions. But did you know this was how it was going to play out?
I'm somewhere between well, we call those plotters and pantsers, right? Plotters are the people who rigidly work out every step
Yeah.
that's going to happen in the book, and pantsers are more like, let's just see what happens and stuff like that. And I'm somewhere in between. I have the main beats of the story worked out in advance. Like this big thing is going to happen, then this big thing is going to happen, then this big thing is going to happen, and then I kind of make things up as I go along to get from point A to point B. Um, and But I would say yes, I knew before I wrote the first words of the story, I knew the main critical plot turning points, and I knew exactly what the last scene was going to be before I started writing. So
Really?
that last scene I had in my mind clear as day. I'm like, this is how it ends.
Wow. That's pretty good. Pretty impressive. Um,
Well, I liked it. It's kind of a feel good. Well, for me
yeah.
anyway.
So you mentioned the movie. Of course, your other book, The Martian, was made into a movie. Now this one's being is made into a movie with Ryan Gosling. I just wondered how much input, and everybody wants to know this, how much input you as a writer had in with the movie and the casting or anything at all. Like, was
Mhm.
this different this time around with Ryan Gosling than it was first time around with Matt Damon? Has the movie process changed for you?
Yes, dramatically, because on The Martian, my only role was to cash the check, right? They just basically said, we're buying the film rights from you. Here you go. Here's our contract.
Yeah.
Have a nice day. And
Yeah.
that's it. And they didn't have to include me at all. They chose to, which was nice. Every now and then I'd get a science question from Drew, who wrote the screenplay, or from Ridley, who directed it. But for the most part, I was uninvolved. I didn't attend the shoot. I didn't do anything. They actually invited me to attend the shoot. They said, I had no authority or anything, but they said, you can come watch us film it if you want. But I didn't want to go to Budapest because I'm not a big fan of flying.
Yeah.
I have since gotten better at flying, but anyway, I didn't watch him shoot it. So I had very little to do with the making of The Martian. Um, with Project Hail Mary, it's completely the opposite. My contract is structured such that I'm a producer. Um, so I mean, I put that a funny way. I am a producer on this movie, although the reason I'm a producer is because of the structure of my contract, not because I am some sort of skilled movie producer.
Right.
So in my capacity as a producer, I was involved in all the decisions, like casting, including casting Ryan, including choosing Chris and Phil to direct and stuff like that. But of course, I didn't put my voice in on any of them. I just stood back and let the real producers do their job. I was just like, hey, I'm just here because my contract says I'm a producer. But I did get much more involved during the actual shooting of the movie. I was there on set. I was there like making sure all the science was correct. That was kind of my role.
Right.
And yeah, I was very heavily involved. And it was cool. It was really cool.
So, how did you feel about the casting with Ryan Gosling? How did you feel?
Well, obviously, that's huge. That's just awesome. I mean, what's
I
funny is I had to sign off on that. I was like, all the producers had to agree, so I was like, yes. I mean,
Why
like, what
wouldn't
the
you sign
hell?
off on that? Yeah.
Why wouldn't I? Why are you guys looking at me?
Well, I mean, I haven't seen the movie, but I saw the trailer, and he really nails it from the trailer, I have to
He
say.
absolutely does. I mean, I know this is a project I'm closely involved with and stuff like that, so I'm incredibly biased, but I mean, this is an award-worthy performance from Ryan. It is amazing. He he
Yeah.
just absolutely nailed it. Everybody nailed it. I mean, it's a good movie. I've seen it many times because I saw every cut
Yeah.
as they came through, and I gave notes on those, and everybody gave notes, and the cuts would change and stuff like that. So I've seen it more times than I can count, but it is a really good movie. And I'm like,
Yeah.
wow, it's just neat to see all these people who are so good at what they do doing what they do.
And I'm just curious, your family members and friends, they must be, like, in awe of you at this stage. I mean,
Well,
this
they've
is
all seen it before, right? Because this all happened before with The Martian.
yeah,
So they're
like,
like, oh, you're doing that again. That is cool.
that's pretty
With the
cool.
Martian, was like, oh my God, you've entered this other universe. That's so cool. This time you're like, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean,
He's
that's
doing
what you
it again.
do. So yeah,
So,
so
somebody in the book club asked, I believe you've talked about questioning the assumption that liquid water is necessary for life. Have you studied this a lot? This, of course, is at the heart of the book. Did you study this? Is this something you've thought about a lot?
I mean, I it's not something that keeps me up at night, but I mean, it is. Yeah, I've always kind of questioned that. My personal opinion is we make a lot of assumptions about what's necessary for life. That's why they always talk about the Goldilocks zone. Oh, you have to be exact, further than this, far from the star, and closer than this. Otherwise, there's no chance for liquid water. But it all comes on the assumption that you need to have liquid water for life. And I think that's kind of a questionable assumption. I mean, really, life is just a molecule that can cause a copy of itself to be made. That's life. That you don't need hydrogen and oxygen for that. There could be other things. I mean, you could say that crystals, in a way, are life, right?
Yeah.
Because you got a crystal growing, it's getting bigger, it's making more crystal. And if you chip off a little piece of that crystal and put it somewhere else, it'll keep making more crystal. So is that life? Well, no, not by our definition. We've got a bunch of complicated rules for what we do, what we have, the taxonomy of what we said this is or is not a life. But if a crystal started talking to you, you'd probably say it was life, right?
Yeah. So going back to the movie for just a second, was there a particular scene or something that they brought to life that you were really impressed by, or that you were kind of worried that they wouldn't get right, or something that when you saw it on screen, you were like, "Oh, they really nailed it. They got it, straight from the book. It's perfect." I'm just curious.
Well, everybody in the production knew that this movie is going to live or die on its depiction of Rocky, on how well they do Rocky. So
Right.
that was really the only question. It said if you get Rocky right, this movie is going to be a breeze. Well, it's not a breeze. It was incredibly difficult for them to make. It was the directors say it's the hardest movie they've ever had to make. Ryan says it's the hardest movie he's ever had to film. It was an
Really?
enormous amount of work. Oh
Wow.
yeah, I mean, every, there emotionally it was awesome, but what I'm saying is just the physical labor being
Right.
in zero G rigs. The sets had to be built into two different orientations for the different gravity modes that the ship could be in. It was an enormous amount of work, but um there was good vibes the whole time, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm sorry I lost the thread.
Well,
I'm
but they
getting a little
got Rocky
older
right.
now. I'm
They
getting a
got
little older now.
but
They
but you
got Rocky right. Yes.
yeah,
That was by far the most important aspect of it, is getting Rocky right. And they absolutely nailed it. So once we saw the test footage of like Rocky and the puppeteering and everything, and by the
yeah,
way, most of the time when you see Rocky, the majority of the time, that's a puppet. That is a practical effect. It's not just a CG thing.
yeah. Wow. So I think you were a software engineer before all this writing started, and I think you self-published The Martian, is that correct?
That's correct. I was a computer programmer, software engineer for 25 years, and I always wanted to be a writer, like all the way since I was a teen. I wanted to be a writer, but when it came time to choose, like when I went to college and came time to choose like a major, I decided I really liked writing, but I also really liked programming computers, and I also decided I really like regular meals, so I went with software engineering, but I was always writing on the side. And I wrote two complete novels before I wrote The Martian. They sucked, which is why you haven't seen them. But The Martian is the one that stuck.
So that's interesting. So that was how many years ago did you write The Martian? That was
It came out, I think, in 2013. The book
okay.
did,
Yeah. And so after that
or
then so
might have
now
been 2014.
y
Might
so
might
now
have been
you're a
20.
full-time writer.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes, yeah.
yeah.
But
What's your
I liked being a programmer. I like The Martian was already on shelves on the New York Times bestseller list. The film rights had been purchased, and I was still at my computer programming job because I liked that job. I only quit that job because I had to go full time writing for my next book, and it paid a lot more. So I'm like, okay, but like, it wasn't a take this job and shove it situation. It was like, bye guys, I'm really gonna miss you.
Wow, so that's so interesting. So when you were a kid, what did you wanna do? Did you wanna be a writer when you were a kid? You must have
Yeah,
been really interested in science when you were a kid.
I've always been. I mean, when I was a little kid, I wanted to be an astronaut or whatever. But I mean, as I got older, yeah, I wanted to be in research and development for a long time. I wanted to be a scientist, like in a lab.
Yeah.
And but I was always writing stories. Even when I was a tween, I was writing short fiction and stuff like that.
So what's it like for you as a former, like, software engineer? Now you're pretty famous as a writer. When you go to, like, book signings and stuff, is it, like, just a thrill that people know who you are and they and
Well,
Ryan
certainly
Gosling
it.
knows who you are? So
I mean, obviously, it's a big ego boost to have a bunch of people coming just to see me and just to get my autograph and tell me that they love my stuff, and so that does my heart good. Um, it's not like amazing anymore because I've been doing it for like 12 years or so. So
right,
it's like, okay,
right.
it's like this is just kind of part of my life now. I mean, but it's awesome. I feel really lucky to be in that position. Also, being a like successful writer is the exact right amount of fame, because like when I want to be famous and I want everyone to know who I
Yeah.
am, and I'm going to a signing and everyone's adoring me and yay, and then when I go to the grocery store the next day, nobody knows who I am.
Yeah, that's pretty perfect. Okay.
It's awesome. It's great. I get to be I get the benefits without the drawbacks.
So when you finished this book, like, finally did the last edit and you walked away from it, was it a little sad to walk away from the characters at all, or
No, because it feels great to finish a project. I'm like,
right,
okay, it's out of my hands. The publisher has it now. We've finished all our editing passes. We've locked down. We've frozen the draft, so there
yeah,
will be no further changes. It's off to the printers. Now it's just you know,
you're done. Yeah.
I'm done and move on to my next project or take a little time off or whatever.
Yeah. So was the main so do you
Because I'm never really saying goodbye to the characters. If I want to play with those characters again, I can write a sequel, right? You're not saying goodbye.
right, that's true. So the main character in Project Hail Mary, I think I've read that that's a little bit based on you, or you've infused some of your personality into him, is that correct?
No, it's kind of the opposite. It's the first time I ever made a main character that wasn't just based on me.
Oh,
So in The
okay.
Martian, the main character, Mark Watney, is literally, he's just me. He's my exact personality with all of my good qualities magnified and all of my bad qualities erased, right? So he's the idealized version of me. In Artemis, also known as Andy Weir's other book, um,
Yeah,
the main character is a 26-year-old Saudi woman who grew up on the moon. So believe it or not, she's also me because her personality is she's like has all the flaws that I had when I was her age. Very immature for a 26-year-old, theoretically very intelligent, but still making bad life decisions. Most of her problems are caused by her own actions. And
right.
so I was trying to make a really flawed main character. So I based that main character on my flaws. Um, but for Ryland from Project Hail Mary was the first time I said like, all right, enough of this just making things me. Let's let's try to create a character from whole cloth that is not based on my own personality. Yeah, he's a scientist, so there's going to be some dorky overlap and stuff like that, but he has his own personality that I tried to build up. I consider character depth and complexity to be my biggest weakness as a writer. I'm a very, very plot driven author,
Right.
and I feel like there's a lot of room for improvement on like on my characters. And if I could get, I'm pretty good, I think, at plot sequencing. If I could get deep, compelling, and interesting characters mixed in with that plot sequencing, then I could get some next level really good writing. I'm just really yeah, it's much more challenging for me.
Yeah.
So anyway, so this was my first attempt at making a character who has his own set of issues and his own set of traits that are not based on mine.
Well, he's very self-deprecating and very appealing. Yeah, so for sure. So you mentioned a project you're working on. So everybody wants to know what's next for you. What's coming up?
Well, I'm working on my next one now, but I'm not talking about it publicly.
Yes. I,
However, I can tell you, obviously, it's another science fiction book. It is not a sequel to anything else that I've written, so it's a new standalone novel.
and I wanted to ask about the friendship in this Project Hail Mary uh, book. I mean, how important was that to like really hone in on friendship between these two main characters?
It is by far the core element of the story, right? This is I mean, Project Hail Mary is a story of friendship and bonding, and then loyalty to each other, and just the well, really the love that two people can the friendship style love that
Right.
two people. I mean, by the end of this book, those two are effectively brothers, right? And so they're that that's what the book is really about.
Yeah, that's true. It's the heart of it. So just one or two more questions. I just always ask, is there an author that inspires you, or authors that inspire you, or is there a book you've read recently that you could recommend to the rest of us? Um, I'd love to know.
Um, well, my holy trinity of authors. So it's interesting. I'm a Gen Xer, but I grew up reading my father's science fiction collection. So he's a boomer. So I'm kind of one generation off of the books you would expect me to have grown up with. So my
Yeah.
holy trinity are Isaac Asimov, Robert Heinlein, and Arthur C. Clarke.
Oh, wow.
Those are the authors that inspired me, and it's their style of optimistic future vision that I model my writing after. So they're my inspirations. If I had to pick just one of them, I would say Asimov. When someone says who's your favorite writer of all time, I say Asimov.
Yeah.
Um, and then as for books I've read recently, I would first off, I generally recommend anything by Blake Crouch. Um, I think his most popular work is Dark Matter, which also became like an Apple TV series. But my personal favorite is Recursion. Those are by Blake. And then I just read one called Paradox Inc. And I am really embarrassed that I can't remember the author's name. And I don't think it's come out yet. I read a galley copy of it, but maybe you could put a chyron under me and say, oh, by the way, when you're doing post production is, but Paradox Inc. is very good. I enjoyed it a lot.
So I'm curious. I wasn't going to ask you this, but I will about TV shows. Are you drawn to like TV shows that are kind of sci-fi? Do you binge watch a lot of those kinds of shows, or are you watching anything right now?
Well, when I can, but I have a 4-year-old boy.
Oh,
I have a 4-year-old son, so I don't have a lot of free
for
time.
time.
When I do watch things, it'll be like late at night or whatever. Right now, honestly, I think the only thing I'm watching right now is The Pit.
Oh yeah, I'm watching the pit.
It's a really good show. It is nothing to do with the sort of stuff that I write, but it's a really good show.
Well, I'm watching that in Paradise. That's the other one I watch.
Paradise, yeah, I liked Paradise. It kind of lost me
Oh yeah,
after a little while. I was like, all right,
lost the plot. So now
yeah.
I feel silly asking this next question because you said you had a 4-year-old, but I always ask everybody when you're not writing and reading, what do you like to do for fun? Or do you have any other hobbies? What do you love to do?
I chase a toddler around, but my hobbies include woodworking
Wow. Wow.
and clockwork mechanisms. I like making physical clockwork mechanisms. I have a laser cutter, so they're big. Yeah, the gears are big. I don't have that kind of precision stuff, but so not specifically clocks, but like, oh, turn this crank and it'll show you the motion of a comet,
Yeah.
or stuff like that. That's a
Wow.
hobby of mine.
So your son, just is he seeing Project Hail Mary? I mean, does he know what
He's a
you
little
do?
too young to.
Yeah,
I mean, there's no. I'm not worried about the subject material. It's
right.
suitable for all ages, um, but he doesn't really have the attention span to watch like a 2-hour movie
Yeah,
yet. He'll watch like a half hour episode of Paw Patrol or something like that, and
yeah,
mostly he's more about like taking his toy cars and running them around the house and going wee 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 wee. This is a fire engine, yay! You know,
yeah.
he doesn't. He's not quite old enough to really be able to sit down and enjoy a movie
Right. So,
quite yet.
so when you one more thing. So when you wake up in the morning, like what's your day like? Do you say I'm going to write from this time to this time and then take a break and this time to this time I'm going to write or what?
On a typical work day, once I'm in a little jail cell style office that I rent off site from my house so that I can escape my toddler. Um, Otherwise, it'll be like, Daddy,
Yeah,
Daddy,
yeah,
knock, knock, knock. Um, but generally, once I get to work, first thing I do is I answer a bunch of work related emails and stuff like that, try to clear out my inbox.
right.
And then once all that's done, then I try to set myself a goal of 1,000 words a day if I'm doing a
Wow.
first draft. And then, yeah, I mean, I don't always succeed. In fact, lately with all this Project Hail Mary,
Yeah.
stuff,
Movies.
I have
Yeah.
not been accomplishing much at all. But it's coming along. Every now and then I'll get 1,000 words and I'm like,
Yeah. I get
snuck
it.
it in. I
Oh, that's great. Well, thank you so much for joining us again. Our April book club pick is Project Hail Mary. I think everybody's pretty much read it, but if you haven't, recommend it to your friends. It's such a good read. So thank you so much for joining us. I just want to tell everybody to please stay on the Girlfriend Book Club page because I'm posting some conversation starters so that you guys can talk about what you liked about the book. And just a reminder that next month, May, Our book is The Road to Tender Hearts by Annie Hartnett, and she'll be joining us the third Tuesday of May. So thank you guys. Have a great evening. And thank you, Andy, so much for joining us. I really loved reading your book, and I can't wait to see the movie. I apologize for not seeing it yet. I can't wait to watch it.
Well, it hasn't come out yet, so.
Well, we recorded this.
As of when we're recording this, you haven't had an opportunity, so I forgive you. Anyway, thank you so much for having me.
Yes. Good night, everybody. Thanks.